As Coach gets organized, we'll start questions with Paul.
Coach, obviously, winning is the biggest thing on Saturday and the biggest thing this season, just period, when you're at home, obviously. But just looking back at your past couple of seasons at State and knowing the anticipation of this game and the atmosphere, just your overall thoughts on how this program has built up the atmosphere and gotten the support from the fans over the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's been great. The swelling of support from year to year, and I don't know if it's game to game, but definitely, from year to year has been really, really good. And when we arrived, we talked about trying to create that atmosphere that everybody wants, in their program. And the students, to me, are the ones that have spearheaded it. They've been very consistent since we've arrived, and our staff and our players have tried to develop relationships with those folks across campus and being visible and trying to work with them, get to know them, and most importantly know that we appreciate them. It's not just a foregone conclusion that students are supposed to come to the games, and we're trying to be interactive with them. And I think as a fan, everybody knows that if the students are there, it just creates a little more ruckus environment, and everybody gets a little more involved. And but it's been awesome to see, and hopefully it'll continue building.
We talked about this with you in the summer, and even talked to the players about the addition of Jordan Sperber to the staff. Now that the season has started and you've used his analytics with percentages and stuff like that, not to give away all the secrets, but how beneficial has that been when it comes to scouting teams and watching trends and stuff like that?
We've been using analytics for years. It's not as if, with Jordan's arrival, we started something new. I've worked with Jordan before, so, a long time ago, I had an idea of, what it would bring to the table. It's hard to put a number value on that. It's like, other people ask me about different additions or subtractions to staff in different years, and there's little things that come up throughout the course of the season, especially as you look back going, that person made an impact, on this particular facet of the game or on this particular game plan. And with Jordan, it's just his knowledge, his experience of studying basketball from his perspective, and just having a sounding board, if you will, for me to be able to ask him questions about trade-offs of us, being more heavily in one area of the game, and what is the trade-off with analytics and other programs that he's studied, and this and that and the other. So he certainly had brought in great value, which I anticipated he would, but in terms of just pinpointing exactly what that means and how much it's influenced us as a basketball team is still a work in progress. He's only a few months into the job, but I love that he's here, and I think the whole staff is using him, for lack of a better word, as a sounding board as well, and just a wealth of information for us.
We'll go to Jacob to Coach's right, and then to Sam.
Coach, I know you've been watching the film. What are kind of the early impressions, and what stands out to you about this Kentucky team?
A lot of things. They're just so explosive offensively. I think they got, 5 and maybe 6, depending on the game. One guy kind of fluctuates, double-figure scorers. So it's not as if they're not equipped to handle off nights by certain individuals. It's pretty remarkable to have that many guys on a consistent basis averaging, that many points over the course of a season. And they just run their stuff with so much confidence and so much pace that you know they have got a great buy-in with their team. They believe in what they're doing. They play together. They share the basketball at a high level. And obviously they're very, very skilled and talented, but more importantly, you know, they play together. And Coach Pope and his staff have done a tremendous job of getting their kids to, like I said, buy in and understand the system and buy into the system. And then on the other end, not that it doesn't help them on offense, they're just so big, you know, all the way around. I mean, out front, they got big, strong guards. It starts with Butler as the head of the snake defensively, and the experience and the size that he brings to the table. And then they got tremendous size around the basket with great shot blocking ability as well. So, I mean, they're obviously a very good basketball team.
Kentucky, you know, even though they lost earlier this week, is still the highest ranked team you've played so far this season. Do you kind of view this as an opportunity to make a statement nationally, or do you not just approach games in that way?
Yeah, it's never crossed my mind. I wouldn't have known that unless you brought it up. You know, we're just focused on doing our jobs and trying to figure out a plan. Hopefully it's a best plan. We'll see, to try to put our kids in position to be successful on both ends of the floor. But in terms of the ranking, or, you know, what team we ranked, I mean, it's going to be a long off season, and I'd imagine the way it looks right now, we're going to have plenty of challenges and opportunities like this as the season unfolds.
We'll go back to the cameras. Carlo, go ahead.
Coach, game by game, you've had contributions from a little bit of everyone on this roster. How valuable is it to have that depth to pull from?
Yeah, it's kind of like what I referred to Kentucky. You know, they've proven that different guys can step up on different nights, and we don't have as many guys that are averaging double figures, but I think we do have enough of game experience to know that we definitely have people capable of leading us in scoring on different nights, or stepping up and making a big shot when it's really, really needed over the course of a game. So I think our whole locker room has a lot of confidence in each other that, you know, every team has a leading scorer, but in some teams, given the situation, everybody knows where the ball is going to go. And for us, you know, people tend to think the ball is going to go to Josh, and certainly it's going to quite a bit of the time, but I think it probably makes him feel really, really good knowing that, you know, if it isn't in his hands, there's plenty of willing and able teammates that are able to step up either over the course of the game or, you know, in that moment.
We'll go to Benjamin and then Danny P to coach's left.
Obviously, Kentucky is one of the biggest name brands in the sport, but they went through a ton of turnover with, you know, the coaching change and having to rebuild most of the roster. So what impresses you the most about, you know, the way Coach Pope was able to build this team on the fly, and, you know, they're back where they almost always are in the top 10?
Yeah, I knew that he would. I anticipated that he would. I'm familiar with Coach. You know, we were in the same league. We played against each other a handful of times prior to this game. So always had a lot of respect for him as a human being, as a person, and definitely as a coach. Got to know him over the course of the last few years, and he works very, very hard at his craft. You know, he's an excellent coach and a really hard-nosed recruiter, and works at it. And with him being, you know, an alum and a former player, I knew he'd hit the ground running. And with the name brand, like you said, I couldn't imagine him having any problems, you know, having an elite roster, and, you know, he's done that. So, you know, they're probably where I expected them to be.
Coach, in various sports, people like to compare scores and look at things in that way. But and Sam mentioned that, you know, Kentucky losing the other night and Tennessee gets beat by 30 and they were number one. Is it really smart in this Southeastern Conference to do that? And do you look at it that way at all?
No, I wouldn't advise anyone at any time. If you guys have been following the sport long enough to know, like, you start doing that and it just messes with your head. And if you're a player or a coach, you definitely, you know, shouldn't be into that game, because it could warp your mind and not get you in the right frame of mind, if you will, to play a certain team who, you beat someone and they got beat by that person, so that means we're going to beat them. I mean, that's been thrown out the window decades ago. People can say, oh, it's not ideal that Kentucky lost that game. Okay, well, whatever. I mean, it's out of our control. We're going to play Kentucky Saturday night. They're going to play Mississippi State Saturday night. Our jobs as coaches is to get our kids ready to play. And whether we're coming off a loss or a win, and I understand the current or the headline of, it'd be better for us if they had came in there off a win. And, who knows? The old adage is, who knows what's going on inside the walls of another program, all year long. You always wonder, but you never know. And so, you got to stay singularly focused on the task at hand and preparing your kids and trying to, get ready to play.
Time for a few more. Jacob, go ahead.
Coach, you have several guys returning from last year's team, and they played a bunch of big games, including the one against Kentucky. How beneficial is it to have guys who are used to playing a big game atmosphere like this?
Yeah, I think where we're at in college basketball, that's going to be the case more times than not because of the portal and kids just having different experiences prior to transferring to another school. So certainly we've got enough guys that have been here and been in games that will be like Saturday night with the anticipation and the crowd. But so do they. I mean, they got a bunch of guys that they've already played in big time environments against big time programs, and so their comfort level will be fine. I'd imagine because of their opportunities that they have in the preseason to play in these certain type of events, and they played at Clemson. They played obviously at Georgia. They played at these big neutral site games. So I don't think that part of the game will be too much for either team.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it.